Welcome to a fine gaming experience, everyone. It's Bricks with my usual co-host.
Hey there, I have new audio equipment, so if you thought I sounded strange, you were in for a treat today.
Yes, it's all fancy and brand new and fresh off the press.
Hopefully it doesn't sound too exciting. Speaking of too exciting, there are your terrifying jellyfish.
And my dead stare. But she's excited to see us. I think some people will be very excited today. We're going to be hunting down one of the more famous creatures from Monster Hunter. And we got our Tail Rider Safari back now, so you can kind of see all the goodies you get in. This is a very low rank hunters we sent out on the mission, so if they were higher rank, we would have those reward boxes almost full.
It's a very useful thing to use, but keep in mind the higher rank and the more powerful hunters you send on, it does make it more expensive. So you are going to have a lot of issues with losing all of your research points if you don't replenish them. A little golden rule, and I've heard this before from other players as well, is for every 2 missions you do, event-wise or hunts-wise, try to do an exploration, especially later in the game. Do an exploration, look around, find some things, do it in an area we're missing pieces from, and it'll really help you keep ahead of the curve with your research points.
There's also some very special things you can do with explorations I will be showing off next mission.
Definitely serve a lot of purposes, especially for your Palico.
Time for a new weapon as well. The Horn is a great support weapon. It got a ton of upgrades with Iceborne. I'm not going to be showing off all the notes and whatnot you can play off with it, but it is very expansive on all the buffs you can get from one single instrument.
One of the great things about the Hunting Horn is it's one of the best impact weapons in the game. Actually, on par with the hammer in a lot of cases. It does lock you into things, though, so you are stuck doing a lot of different moves. I'll explain more of that after you explain your fanciness.
We've been wearing this basic armor for quite a while, so it's time to upgrade. And as you've noticed from the defense on this stuff, each piece has 34, 36 defense on it. I was wearing stuff that only had 6 defense on it, so if you notice how much damage I will be taking in this fight coming up, take that into account. I would have got annihilated with my low armor defense. And this stuff is just so fancy.
It looks really good, too, with the hairstyle. I actually like that unlike a lot of other games that use wild hairstyles, Monster Hunter does its best to keep your character looking as much like themselves as possible, rather than just tucking everything up under the hat. It's a pain to program, it really is.
And I upgraded my charm as well here. We are putting Stamina Thief on us, which will give us a little bit more exhaust power on our instrument here. It'll turn the instrument into a bit more of a hammer-type weapon for how much it exhausts the opponent.
So the Hunting Horn has some unique properties to it. The first most unique property is that every single Hunting Horn path has a set of notes. So if you're building like the Legiana one, it has its specific path of notes that it can do. Now, notes correspond to different buttons or button combinations. So you'll be pressing 2 buttons, 1 button, or a different button, and you use those combinations to set up songs. So you're going to be bashing enemies in the head while you do this, and then you're going to use a note to release that song, and that acts as a buff. The buff does put you in place for a second, so you want to make sure that you've knocked the enemy dizzy or somebody else who you're working with has the enemy's attention.
The horn is very similar to the hammer for that, where you will have slow attacks that just leave you in an hold animation after you've done the attack. So it's great to roll out of those ones. But it's learning the specific timing on the horn that can be very tricky. When you're playing your songs, you're kind of stuck there for a couple seconds just doodling around and leaves you pretty vulnerable.
So to all you cleric players, white mage players, to all of you bards, to all of you support types out there, this is the game that cares about you because it's giving you something that you can absolutely demolish enemies with while still supporting your friends. And that's the thing about the hunting horn. There is a proper way to play it. And it's a little controversial to say a proper way to play it, but let me just explain. The hunting horn's damage is insane. And if you are on a fight with a hunting horn, you need to be hitting things. If you aren't actually hitting them with the horn and you're just doing your buffs, you're not doing your part in the fight. Play aggressive, hope your friends will keep you off, and on occasion roll away to do your song releases. But it takes a lot of practice, but hunting horn players, thank you so much because you really are the reason we win hard fights harder than we could possibly complete on our own.
The buffs you get off the horn can be really, really good too.
And they go on top of regular buffs as well, so they stack with other effects, which is incredible.
Indeed, you can get really powerful with some items and the buffs.
Don't touch it.
And as she just pointed out, all these pools down here are not water, they're acid.
I do like she screams, "Don't touch it," the second you're sticking your hand in some Zora poop.
I was a little concerned on that too, but she's got a good point. Don't touch the burning lava poop. What did we just say?
I know we've reached the bottom.
Remember, social distance and wear your mask.
Indeed.
The handler does it, and this is the
But what
handler.
happened to Zora? There's no place else for it to go.
She makes up for that in a second, though.
I think we should split up and look.
Always a good idea.
Never split the party.
Say hello to Big Red.
I absolutely love the design of this monster. He's a really fun fight, extremely challenging to new players. Once you get his patterns down, though, he's not so bad. And you know what? Like most aggressive monsters, the best tip is to go aggressive against him. Bash that head.
Now, Odo is very interesting on that aspect because he is one of the most aggressive monsters we've run into. He will constantly attack. He gets really pissed off and will go into almost a berserk state where he will just attack you at full fury. However,
he also gets some special attacks in that mode too.
Indeed. And he also gets tired out very fast from that, though.
She can't hold that thing off.
Monsters are kind of like you, where they have their own stamina bar, and Odo can tire himself out in his berserk fury.
Hope she's okay.
So if you got the right openings there with an instrument like the horn, you can go in and get good bashes in. But as you'll see too, he's so fast and maneuverable, I'm going to have a hard time connecting at moments.
Patience is a big virtue with him. Most monsters usually have combos that are 3 or 4 hits at the most. Odo has some that are 5 or 6. So wait for, and this is kind of the tip, he'll do a diving bite. He'll lift his head up and roar and do a big bite. That's generally the end of his combos, and you almost always have a great window. The problem is watching him is a pain. So I actually suggest fighting Odo with a good light-ranged weapon like a bow or a light bowgun, rather than fighting him with something like a close-range weapon to start, just to get his patterns down. It really did help me. I was getting destroyed by him all the time before I learned him.
Yeah, some of the slower weapons like the horn, the hammer, can make it a little difficult to get used to Odo. Something like the sword and shield is always a good starter one for learning opponents' moves.
Absolutely.
And this is Odo's nest down here, as you can tell from his collection of former meals.
Now you're watching the button prompts. If you see up at the screen, right below the stamina bar and the sharpness bar, you see a set of notes right there. And those notes are denoting things like songs, and they're also telling you what button you press next and what song you'll get. So you do actually have to do your combos in a certain order, which means you may go for an attack that you wouldn't normally need to go for. Hammer has a very easy moveset that's quick to learn if you want to try a bashing weapon first. But if you really, really want to learn this game, don't pick the hunting horn. You're going to be focused on your songs until you get them memorized. And like I said, every weapon has different songs. There was a song right there. You have an attack up, and you were going for an encore to buff the song twice. Because you can actually play a song twice and get double the buff with it. Problem is... Oh, bleeding is terrible.
It is the worst status effect in the game, in my opinion. You can't roll, you can't run, you have to crouch down until bleeding wears off. Which against someone like Odo, who zips and attacks constantly, can make it incredibly annoying.
Now, his claws are the only things that can put on bleeding. You can also get yourself some Astera Jerky. I highly recommend bringing it with you when you fight Odogoron, because it will clear the status, and it is actually a pretty quick gnaw. You just throw it back and get it.
Here's that healing booster I put down. It's going to just create a little cloud we can constantly heal up in.
Really good for multiplayer, because your friends can heal up inside that cloud, too. Now, you're seeing his drooling there.
And his hyper-aggressiveness, like I'm having a hard time just finding out where he is.
Now, when you do hit him, he'll retaliate. You just watch there, he got a good old bash in the head, and he immediately turned around and started attacking. If you keep doing that, and you keep aggressing on him, and just kind of counterattack him, he's not too shabby at falling quick.
Fortunately, my speed of the weapon versus his speed is giving me some issues.
Very nice to see you play with a weapon that you're not as well versed in, especially compared to the hammer.
The hunting horn was the very first weapon I picked up in the game.
And why didn't you stick with it?
Because it was too slow, and it's very basic, but the hammer is basic in a way that's super effective. This is basic in the point where you really only have 3 moves. You basically have a double tap with your Y, a double tap with your B, and a double tap with both buttons. And then you got your instrument plays. Like, it's very basic. Mind you, you can add a direction with almost all those inputs and do something different. And if you don't want to do a full-on combo with it, if you're pressing forward and one of those buttons, you'll go directly into the second part of the combo. You can also press back, and you'll do basically a stab with the hilt of your instrument. It is the only cutting instrument, it's the only cutting move on your blood instrument. And you're almost never going to use it for cutting off a limb, but it helps if you just want to have someone in your party who's trying to cut off a limb.
The actual purpose of that attack is to do a note very quickly. That's the useful thing about it. It's a quick note. You're watching those playing the song and then kind of popping out. That encore right there actually did sonic damage. You'll notice it hit twice. Now, the damage this thing puts out is just incredible, and you can just keep going, playing songs, smashing the head.
Like that.
Odo is kind of stuck on the ropes right now. It's very impressive. I also do like that the flashes are a lot more obvious now in Iceborne. Before, they weren't quite as bright as they are. You clearly see it's playing blue or green or yellow, and that lets you know what note you're just playing.
I'm actually really looking forward to when I show off all the extras Iceborne did for this one, because it is amazing. This used to be the lowest tier weapon in the game, and it shows that people were complaining enough that they enhanced the weapon.
Now, I will say that is on solo hunts. Tiers mean nothing in multiplayer hunts. If there is a weapon that is best in multiplayer, people are going to argue all day long between Hunting Horn and Sword and Shield. Problem is, Sword and Shield is really good on solo hunts too. And Sword and Shield needs a specific kind of build to be really good in multiplayer. You've all heard me explain the wide range build before.
Yes. Now, you had mentioned the encores, and the encore is basically playing my song again, which will give the double up boost on it. And every instrument will have the triangle song, which is your self buff. It gives you more speed and actually will turn you into the fastest movement out of any default weapon just by putting on that simple song.
It decreases the knockback when you hit an enemy who don't quite have the ability to crack through the armor of. So that would be a good example is our buddy Baroth with his big crusty head. It works great against him using that song because you get just a little bit more potency to your attacks. If you remember the longsword, it's kind of like the spirit slash attacks.
That's only on the Encore version of it, the attack up and deflected attack prevention.
Mm-hmm.
But those self-buffs can be really handy. It turns what could be a short combo getting deflected off into just a constant stream of hits.
And I'm going to say another controversial thing, because I like to say those things today. I really recommend that you don't learn to play the horn wrong. Don't go in there just hitting random buttons and then just using your basic skills, because you're going to learn bad habits. It's kind of like when we started with those really ultra-powerful weapons. You learn bad habits, and unfortunately, those bad habits get ingrained in you, and you have a lot of work to do to fix things. It's better to learn the horn, learn the combos, and some of the basic horns, I believe the Iron Horn is actually got really good songs on it, so I suggest start with that, upgrade it, and don't worry too much about switching the paths. There's also a Rathian horn. We haven't seen fought yet, but there's a Rathian horn that is very good and has a unique set of moves.
One thing I should point out too is, even though it's called the hunting horn, they're not all horns. Some of them will be guitars and whatnot and have different notes and whatnot when you play them, as in they'll sound different. And Odo himself is very interesting. He has tons of claws, as you could see there, and you can break them multiple times. You can break his face, and he himself is interesting for his aggression. Not only will he do like dashing moves at you, he'll do almost Chun-Li wall leaps at you. Makes it very difficult to know exactly where he's coming from sometimes, but the real trick is exhausting him. It's one of the reasons I put on the Stamina Thief ability.
Oh, and he's running through this cave here. This is very annoying because that cave can't be used by you. He goes and he almost teleports across the map, so you have to go all the way around to get to him.
And he has a couple of those cubby holes around the map he can go into.
Puppy holes!
Yeah. His doggy
I got to do an
door.
argument with someone that said he was a cat. And I'm like, I don't think he's a dog.
They even make a couple dog jokes for event quests with him. There is a very awesome suit I want to get for our Palico later, where I'll have to fight him 3 times, I believe, in one fight.
Mm-hmm.
Look at him just curled up in a dog nap there. Puppiness.
Puppiness.
I'm just showing off his lair here a little bit, because he does have some goodies hidden behind here you might not see normally if you're just going right after him. Because things like Might Seeds aren't too common and always handy. But it's right what's over here is interesting. We just break these dead vines.
I think those are tendons.
I'm not going to question what things are down here.
You probably shouldn't.
We're just going to take a hunk of meat right out of this dead creature. And you can use that as bait and whatnot for Odo.
There's a couple monsters in the Vale actually will respond to it. Great Gyros will also hunt after the meat. Everything here is basically a scavenger, so if there's a lump of meat, even if it's a little rotten, they're very interested to nom on it.
But that also works in your benefit. If you have some of the poison meats or whatnot, you can lay them out here, and Odo will usually go up and munch them.
So Odo equipment is very good. It's some of the best damage equipment you can get early on in the game, so hunting him a lot is a good idea. It also has extremely high critical hit rate. The bonus you get on it is almost always 15, sometimes to 25, and his actual armor set has some great bonuses. Hopefully we'll see that sometime soon, be able to discuss that, but it's got some really good bonuses that are excellent for any build.
We'll be seeing it at the end of the episode now. I've been splicing the armor for what we fight now at the end for everything.
I'm going out for another look.
It's like we were busy.
No, you're not.
So I don't know why the handler's so obsessed with her.
I don't either.
You're okay. I was scared to death.
All right, easy, easy. I'm just glad that you're not hurt. Thank you.
Yeah, she's crying up a storm.
I hide until it moved on, but well, you saved me the trouble.
See, she was smarter than the handler was.
That's enough.
I'm just gonna hide. No, we gotta go out there and kill it.
Now we had a deal, don't you remember? Did you learn all you could about the Vale? Now tell me everything. What did you feel out there?
I felt a lot of rotting meat.
I love that you're glittering.
I think the
I
Vale
always
is
glitter
where
in this
the
armor.
monsters come to die. It's their graveyard, and this whole land is a vast ecosystem revolving around it.
Think of it like a giant elephant graveyard, but for
Come on.
all the monsters.
Love when you first come here and there's like Raffinos just falling out of the sky.
And you will find their
You're
corpses
right.
here and actually
The
be able to
Vale
carve
is
them
where
up.
monsters come to rest.
You don't get the full, like,
Sense the end
goodies
and
you
make
would
their
from
way
a
here.
regular monster, but still neat to find.
Their bodies become nutrients that feed the coral highlands. From death rises new life, which after a cycle returns to the Vale to die again.
Yeah, the Rotten Vale and Coral Highlands are actually symbiotically connected.
It's an ecological marvel.
It is
One
directly
that
above it,
easily
too.
dwarfs any I have ever seen.
Yeah.
But have you really considered the important question?
What's that?
Who's Batman?
Who's at the heart of it? What monster could serve as the nutrients for a system this large? What's the mystery behind the Elder Crossing? You know the answer.
They die here.
Bingo! An Elder's death is the catalyst. The Vale is Zora Magdaros' resting place.
We've been beating up somebody who just wants to go and die. Aren't we rude?
We're just chasing an old man
Or at least
crossing
The clues
onto
are
his
all here,
deathbed.
but Zora is nowhere to be found.
It was drawing in energy, storing it as it moved on. Was it trying to deliver it somewhere?
I don't know. But I know who might. The first Wyverians have lived here much longer than us. Seek them out.
Very interesting characters.
Look, it's raining life.
Oh, I got some life in my eye.
It's raining life. At least she's not catching it on her tongue.
If only I could live
the tongue is
another
numb.
300 years.
That was poison ivy.
Maybe that would be just long enough to see the end of this changing of the guard. Friends, you go finish this. I want to stay here a while longer.
I appreciate her skin texture. She does look like an older woman who has had a interesting life.
Much better than some of the typical game aging effects that they just do for your character.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we put some wrinkles under your eye. We're done. Time to go home.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you take off your shirt and you're absolutely swole like Master Roshi.
And Odo, as I was mentioning, has many parts to break, so you can get lots of claws and whatnot off him. Odo also has a drop that is very important for making ancient potions. It's one of the reasons I like sending my Palico hunting team to go off on Odo, just to get me more of those rare ingredients.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Who are you?
I'm Batman.
Definitely see you can get a tan here.
Everyone here does seem pretty tan.
It's kind of the sea idea. If you see the old sea captain, he's sitting there without a shirt and he is sunbaked.
He is salty.
I'm sure he probably, is very salty.
You can do this.
Thanks.
first Wyverians might be able to tell us where Zora Magdaros is.
You're not seeing us do it, but remember, go to your tree after every single hunt.
There's a lot of stuff I do between episodes you guys aren't seeing, but...
Yeah, there should be a checklist. Everyone should have a little checklist. And I know it sounds like a lot, but once you come back from a hunt, it's like... if you put in an extra 2 minutes of just cleaning stuff up after each hunt, you'll be a lot happier off. Especially because some of the hunts later on are going to take you 45 minutes to complete.
If nothing else, just remember to empty out your items. It's so frustrating to go into a new mission and be like, oh yeah, I can't pick anything up because my inventory's full.
Very much a Japanese samurai style armor. Love the face. It has a really, really cool fluff on the back as well.
The female set is boss.
Yeah, the mask on that one is really, really neat. Exposed hips, exposed thighs, but still really, really cool setup.
And the abilities are really good too. Speed sharpening, as always, is great. A lot of bleed resistance to help against Odo. Constitution's always a handy one.
Critical Eye is essential. That is one of the most powerful skills in the game. You want to get that to 5 if possible. And Quick Sheath is very nice.
Not the best, but it's handy.
Now, that is important. So, the basic idea is this is a weapon that works really well with Longsword. Because Longsword is a weapon you're going to be attacking with a lot and then putting it back on your back and then drawing it again. Any weapon that you're going to be putting away, drawing, putting it away, drawing is excellent. Greatsword is another one that you're not going to be running around with it in front of you because you can't run. I actually like the Palico set too, those big glowing blue eyes.
The weapon's neat too. It's not elemental, but it has 30% affinity. He will be doing a lot of critical hits with that. And it's severing, so if you want to cut off some limbs,
it helps.
Now, next time I will be going back into the Vale. We are supposed to be hunting up in the forest next time, but we haven't taken on Great Gyros. We've seen him, but that'll be next time, as well as some Palico hunting for tools, so...
exciting side quests.
And I hope everyone joins me next time, and take care all.